Have you ever noticed how a simple sentence can change the way someone looks at you? Or how certain words, once spoken, seem to hang in the air longer than they should, carrying a weight you didn't intend? As we age, communication becomes more than just conversation. It becomes a lifeline to connection, to dignity, to being truly seen. And yet, many older adults unknowingly use phrases that quietly close doors, phrases that signal withdrawal, helplessness, or resignation. This isn't about fault or criticism. It's about discovery. In this video, we're exploring 6 common expressions that may seem small, but can deeply affect how others relate to you. You might not even realize you're saying them. That's how natural they feel. But once you understand their deeper impact, something shifts. The good news is, you can make that shift today. With a few small changes in how you speak, you can invite more warmth, more respect, and more genuine connection into your daily life. You can go from being perceived as old and fragile to wise, grounded, and fully present. So let's take a gentle but honest look together. These 6 phrases could be shaping your relationships more than you think, and replacing them might just open the door to stronger bonds, better understanding, and a deeper sense of belonging. Stay with us. What you learn in the next few minutes could change the way others hear you, and more importantly, how you feel about yourself. 1. I'm just a burden. It's one of the most heartbreaking phrases that can come out of a person's mouth, especially someone who has spent their life giving to others. And yet, many older adults find themselves saying it quietly, often during moments of vulnerability. Maybe after needing help with getting dressed, or when someone offers a ride to a doctor's appointment. But behind those few words lies something much heavier. Saying, I'm just a burden, carries emotional weight, not just for you, but for the people who care about you. Loved ones hear more than humility in that sentence. They hear helplessness. They hear that their support might not be welcome. And no matter how deeply they care, it can make them feel unsure of how to help, or even whether they should continue trying. There's an unintended message that slips through. You shouldn't care about me. It's not what you mean, of course, but it's what others may feel. And over time, it can quietly erode connection, replacing closeness with awkwardness and warm gestures with hesitations. Take Robert, a 79-year-old widower from Cedar Falls, Iowa. After a minor surgery left him needing a walker, his daughter began visiting every weekend to help with errands and meals. Each time she arrived, Robert would sigh and say, "You shouldn't have to deal with an old burden like me." He thought he was being modest, but gradually, his daughter began to visit less often, not because she didn't love him, but because she didn't know how to reassure him without feeling like her care was somehow a burden itself. The visits that once felt joyful became tinged with guilt and confusion. This is how well-meaning words can create distance without anyone intending harm. But there's a better way to speak to those who support you. Instead of apologizing for needing help, try acknowledging it with warmth. A simple, "Thank you for being here. It means a lot," turns a moment of dependence into a moment of shared humanity. It reminds your loved ones that their efforts matter, that their presence brings comfort, not obligation. Gratitude opens doors. It deepens relationships. And more importantly, it invites people into your life instead of pushing them away. You are not a burden. You are still the person who once carried others, through hard times, joyful celebrations, and everything in between. Needing support now doesn't change that legacy. It adds to it. So speak with love, speak with truth, and speak in a way that keeps your connection strong, because those bonds are what make this chapter of life not just bearable, but deeply meaningful. 2. Back in my day. After talking about the deep impact of feeling like a burden, there's another phrase that may seem harmless on the surface, but can quietly chip away at connection, especially across generations. It often slips out during a conversation, a moment of frustration, or when witnessing something unfamiliar. You might hear yourself saying it without even thinking, "Back in my day." It sounds simple enough, but for the person listening, especially if they're younger, it can feel like more than a memory. It can sound like a judgment, a comparison, or even a dismissal of what they're going through now. Suddenly, their challenges seem small. Their worries appear unimportant. And just like that, the space for real conversation begins to shrink. You may mean it as a way to share your experience, to offer perspective, or to remind someone that they, too, will get through tough times. That intention is good, but the delivery can feel like a correction instead of comfort. What was meant to open a door can accidentally close it. Younger people, especially family members and caregivers, might start pulling back. Not because they don't respect you, but because they don't feel heard. They may stop sharing their struggles. They might smile and nod politely, all while silently feeling misunderstood or unseen. But there's a gentle shift in language that can make all the difference. Instead of leading with, "Back in my day," try asking, "I remember something similar. Would you like to hear about it?" That small invitation turns a monologue into a dialogue. It shows respect for the other person's experience, while offering your own with grace and humility. Conversations that once felt like tug-of-war suddenly become more like bridges, built from mutual respect, not silent competition. Your stories matter. Your past holds wisdom. But how you share it can either bring people closer or push them quietly away. It's easy to forget that every generation carries its own kind of weight. The world has changed quickly. Challenges today may look different than the ones you faced, but they are no less real. Recognizing that helps you stay connected, not just through memories, but through empathy. And when your voice becomes one of support instead of comparison, others lean in. They begin to see you not as someone stuck in the past, but as someone deeply present and engaged. That's the power of mindful language. It doesn't erase what you've lived through. It honors it by using it to uplift. Remember the impact you want to have, and choose the version that invites someone in, instead of leaving them out. If you've made it this far, I hope these phrases gave you something to reflect on. If you're finding these insights helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful content to keep seniors respected, connected, and thriving. Now, let's keep going. 3. What's the point? Sometimes, the most damaging words aren't the loudest. They're quiet, slipped into conversation like a sigh. It might come out on a gray morning when getting out of bed feels like a chore, or after losing someone close, or when the world feels like it's moving on without you. That words carry an emotional weight that's hard to overstate. They don't just reflect sadness, they signal a deeper sense of resignation, the feeling that nothing ahead is worth the effort. But here's the hard truth. When loved ones hear, "What's the point?" again and again, it drains more than just the speaker. It quietly dims the light in the room. Family members may begin to feel helpless, unsure how to respond, afraid they can't say or do the right thing. Over time, even the most caring friends might start calling less, not out of apathy, but out of emotional fatigue. Not knowing how to lift someone who seems unwilling to be lifted is deeply painful. Still, it's not about blame, it's about understanding. This phrase often comes from exhaustion, loneliness, or grief. But like any habit, it can be gently reshaped. The question doesn't have to be about giving up. It can be redirected into something more life-affirming. Try this instead. What would bring me a little joy today? It doesn't need to be grand. A short walk, a favorite song, a call with someone who always makes you smile. You don't need a massive life overhaul to find meaning. You need a thread, a reason to reach for the next moment. That's how hope works. It's quiet, like the first light after a long night. But it grows when you feed it. And even the smallest spark of purpose can reignite connection, dignity, and a deep sense of being needed. So the next time the words, "What's the point?" start to surface, pause. Ask a different question. Choose one that gives you back your voice, your curiosity, your ability to connect. Because there is always a point. You are still here. You still matter. And your presence still brings something no one else can offer. 4. You wouldn't understand. When life feels heavy, it's natural to want to retreat, to hold your feelings close, protect yourself from the sting of misunderstanding, or avoid having to explain something that even you can't always put into words. That's why many older adults reach for the phrase, "You wouldn't understand." It's not meant to push people away. Most of the time, it's said with a shrug, or a soft smile, or a quiet voice, as if to spare loved ones from carrying any more than they already do. And over time, even the most well-meaning family members can begin to feel shut out. Take Gloria, for example. She's 81 and lives in Asheville, North Carolina. She's seen a lot: chronic pain, the loss of close friends, the quiet ache of days that don't feel full anymore. When her granddaughter came to visit and gently asked, "How are you really doing, Grandma?" Gloria would simply respond, "You wouldn't understand." She didn't mean to sound cold. She was trying to protect her granddaughter from the sadness. But to the young woman's ears, it felt like a door being quietly closed. After a while, she stopped asking. What Gloria didn't realize was that her silence wasn't interpreted as strength. It came across as rejection. Her granddaughter didn't need to understand every detail of her pain. She just wanted to be allowed in, to sit beside her, to feel needed and trusted. Here's the truth. People don't have to fully understand your experiences to care deeply about you. They don't need the perfect words. They just need permission to be present with you in it. And that starts with a small shift, from shutting down the conversation to gently opening the door. Instead of saying, "You wouldn't understand, try this." It's hard to explain, but I'd like to share if you're open to hearing. This simple reframe does more than invite empathy. It strengthens emotional bonds. It says, "I trust you enough to let you in, even if I can't make it all make sense." And in return, your loved ones are more likely to show up, not with answers, but with presence, with love. Vulnerability can feel risky, but it's also what keeps relationships alive. It turns silence into connection and transforms isolation into closeness. So the next time someone asks how you're really doing, consider letting them see just a little more of what's behind your eyes. Not because they'll fully understand, but because they're trying. And sometimes, that effort is what matters most. 5. I'm too old for that. Sometimes, the words come out before we even notice. It might be in response to a suggestion to try something unfamiliar, join a family outing, or learn a new skill. And while it might seem like a harmless expression of boundaries or comfort, it often carries a deeper weight, one that others quietly absorb. The truth is, this phrase doesn't just decline an activity. It can send the message that you've stepped away from participation altogether, that you've closed the door on possibility, even joy. To those around you, it can sound like, "Don't expect anything more from me." And over time, that unspoken message can create space that no one wants, but no one quite knows how to fill. It's not really about any one activity. It's about staying engaged, curious, willing to show up, even in unfamiliar spaces. The phrase, "I'm too old for that," can easily become a habit, and that habit slowly chips away at connection, opportunity, and even self-worth. The good news? There's a simple and empowering shift that can open doors again. Instead of shutting something down with, "I'm too old for that," try saying, "That's new to me, but I'll give it a try." This doesn't mean forcing yourself into uncomfortable situations or pretending to enjoy things you don't. It simply keeps the spirit of engagement alive. It tells the people around you, and yourself, that age hasn't dimmed your openness to life. And that's magnetic. People of all ages want to be around someone who still carries curiosity in their pocket. Being older doesn't mean being done. It doesn't mean stepping back from laughter, learning, or connection. In fact, those things often become even more meaningful with age. Every yes to something small becomes a bridge to grandchildren, to community, to your own evolving identity. Ask yourself if that's really true, or if it's just easier than being seen trying something new. Then consider showing up anyway. You might be surprised by how much your presence matters and how good it feels to still be part of the dance. 6. I don't matter anymore. It's often the quietest words that carry the deepest ache. Of all the phrases that can slip out during difficult moments, "I don't matter anymore" might be the most painful, for both the person who says it and the loved ones who hear it. These 5 words may come from a place of vulnerability, but to those nearby, they can feel like a door closing. After all, when someone we care about expresses that they no longer feel significant, we may feel powerless to change that. Even the most loving family member may not know how to respond, unsure whether to comfort, reassure, or simply remain silent. This kind of emotional fog is hard to navigate, and over time, it can lead to quiet retreat on both sides. Consider Evelyn, an 84-year-old grandmother from Manchester, New Hampshire. For decades, she was the one who cooked the holiday meals, held the photo albums, and remembered everyone's birthdays. But as arthritis made movement harder and energy less predictable, she began to pull back. She stopped attending family outings, left conversations early, and began telling her daughter, "I don't matter anymore." To Evelyn, it was just an honest expression of how small she felt after losing the roles that had once defined her. But to her children and grandchildren, it felt like their love and efforts to include her no longer counted. They started visiting less often, not because they stopped caring, but because they didn't know how to ease the quiet sadness in her voice. What Evelyn was really feeling wasn't that she no longer mattered. It was that she no longer felt seen in the way she once did. That's a powerful distinction. Most people aren't trying to disappear. They're longing to be acknowledged, included, and invited to still take part, even in new and smaller ways. That's why reframing this kind of pain with honesty and openness is so important. Instead of saying, "I don't matter anymore," try saying something like, "Sometimes I feel invisible, but I want to feel connected." It's not about denying the difficult feelings. It's about expressing them in a way that gives others the chance to meet you with compassion. This simple shift invites conversation rather than silence. It tells your loved ones not just how you feel, but what you need. And most importantly, it reminds everyone involved, including yourself, that you are still here, still valuable, and still worthy of connection. Aging can sometimes make us feel like our voices have gone quiet in a world that keeps moving. But your presence still matters immensely. And when you give others the opportunity to show up for you, you're not just receiving care. You're strengthening the very bonds that keep you part of the story. As we come to the end of this journey through words that often go unexamined, let's pause, not to dwell, but to gently reflect. These phrases we've explored don't simply fall from our lips. They come from lived experiences, quiet hurts, and long histories. If one of them sounded familiar to you, take heart. That recognition isn't something to hide from. It's an opportunity to grow into something lighter, freer, more connected. You've lived decades filled with stories, relationships, challenges, and triumphs. You're not just someone with a history. You're someone with a presence. And every word you speak about yourself, whether in front of family or whispered when you're alone, shapes the energy you bring into the room. When you believe you're worthy of connection, others feel it too. When you speak with openness, others are more likely to reach in. So here's a gentle invitation. Choose just one phrase we've talked about today and release it. Not with pressure, not all at once, but with intention. Replace it with something that opens the door to closeness and respect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be honest and a little hopeful. You are still here. You are still becoming. And you are still deeply worth showing up for. If this video spoke to you, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone else who might need to hear these words today. Your support allows us to keep creating meaningful, thoughtful content for people just like you. People who deserve to feel seen, heard, and valued. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one thing you're taking away from this conversation? Your voice matters. Until next time, take good care.